controversy.
The so-called handshake, I don't know who has earned dividend. If you ask me, Raila Odinga has not earned any dividend from the opposition. It has killed his credentials. It has killed his coalition, NASA. The president is about 8 months to go. He has nothing tangible for the opposition that can make them president next election. What President Kenyatta and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga are telling us is hogwash. If I can describe them, is that what they have done is raping the Constitution. They have raped the Constitution. They have set a very bad precedent.
Drama.
He left the highway and he went to the back street in terms of his second term, and I think it was very, very unfortunate. A number of us became casualties. For the first time, let me make it public. The president and his handlers and the former prime minister, they have caused confusion, and the moment they were through with the state capture of the legislature, they thought they can capture the judiciary.
And the plain hard truth.
I think one of the things that is negative will be remembered for President Uhuru Kenyatta was, to mutilate the Constitution, to disrespect the rule of law, to allow his ministers to refuse to be served by court orders. The race is between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. He should not meddle in. He is not a candidate. We have a lot of regard for him, and he should not lose that respect. He should just allow Kenyans to choose who they want. He can support whoever he wants, but he cannot have his cake and eat it.
This is the Jacque Maribe Show.
We are in an election cycle, a few months to 2022, and to some, inarguably appeared so far, yet now so close. Yet the political drumbeats keep beating even louder. So to have this national discourse with us today on the show is Garissa Township Member of Parliament and former Majority Leader of the National Assembly, Aden Duale. This is the Jacque Maribe Show. This week we're having this continuing national discourse with former Majority Leader in the National Assembly and Garissa Township Member of Parliament, my good friend,
yes,
Aden Duale. Urafiki haijaisha?
Haijaisha?
Haiwezi isha.
Lakini sasa nimekuwa nimerelax, hakuna kazi mingi. Yeah.
But you've appeared to be a bit quiet even, out there. You used to be this person who would never miss on our screens, in the newspapers.
Yeah, but that was the office. Mm-hmm. I was a leader of majority, so I was holding a constitutional office. Mm-hmm. And everybody wanted a bite or a comment or an opinion on many things. Mm-hmm. Now I'm just a backbencher, a ranking member. Thank you to the speaker and the clerk. They are now adapting the American system. Mm-hmm. So now I'm I think I'm the first ranking member in the House. And when you're a ranking member, you also live within the confines of that ranking member. So I do a lot of work in the House, raise constitutional issues, help or bring things that can improve the reform and the improvement of the legislature. Mm-hmm. And then I have more time now with my family and my other things, so I'm very much relaxed. Which is a good thing for you. Yes. I can see you even look happy and healthy. Yes. But I want us to dive straight into, what we're currently experiencing, which is, of course, the race for 2022. Yes. As we approach August 9th, Heshimiwa, we're seeing, new names spring up, of course, more, as we say, horses. And some of you would refer to others as donkeys in the race. So, in your experience, as a legislator and as a leader, of course, in the political realm, what do you make of the new names that are springing up? We have the Jimmy Wanjigis, we have, I don't know whether Aden Duale would want to run for president. What do you make of these new names that are springing up in the race for 2022 succession? No, I have served under two presidents in the legislature. I have served under President Kibaki, his 10-year term, and President Uhuru. And I witnessed one transition from President Kibaki to President Uhuru Kenyatta. And now we are this election is not like the other normal elections. It's a transitional election. One president is exiting and another is coming in. But you have asked me a very good question. In every election, I think in every country, in every democracy, there are, and even in the gubernatorial elections, senatorial, member of parliament, women rep, there are always serious candidates and jokers vying for seats.
Are you saying some of them are outright jokers?
Yeah. You know, to vie for a presidential election, to be a candidate, there are people who want to win, there are people who don't want to win. And you can tell from the way they prepare. So if you ask me, this election, this year, I mean 2022, there are three sets of candidates. There are those who you can call the horses, the two-horse race. This election is between William Ruto, the deputy president, and Raila Odinga. Why do I say so? These are the two candidates, in my opinion, who hold a big sway and have huge following across the country. Honorable Raila Odinga, because he vied a number of times, and the last time he vied, he got close to 6 million plus votes. Of course, with Kalonzo Musyoka and Musalia Mudavadi. Then you have the deputy president, who is coming to the election of 2022 with the huge constituency called Jubilee, in quotes, of 2013 and 2017. So deputy president is coming with the Jubilee traditional constituency of Rift Valley, Mount Kenya, pastoralist, and now he has made serious inroads into Western Coast, Kisii, and some parts of Nairobi. Then we have, of course, Honorable Raila Odinga, who has his old NASA constituency. Him, now, if you ask me as a ranking member of the House, the handshake has affected the old traditional constituency of Honorable Raila Odinga in two ways. One, former Prime Minister was known for a person who stands for governance, for human rights, anti-corruption, crusader, an opposition leader. Like today, we have a serious fuel crisis in our country, high prices. And imagine Raila Odinga is not the old Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga should have spoken yesterday. Should have called a press conference at Capitol Hill. So, by dining with President Uhuru Kenyatta in the name of the handshake, in my opinion, former Prime Minister has lost a huge chunk of his historical credentials that he was known for, both locally and internationally. So if you ask me, he's coming to the 2022 election, of course, as a serious horse, but with a lot of dent. He has lost, his coalition is in tatters. NASA is no longer there. He has lost some of his credentials he has been known for since 1997 when he vied. He is no longer seen as the opposition leader. Elections are gone into between the opposition and government. So now it looks like everybody going, so it's like William Ruto has taken, has two hats. In the morning he speaks for government, and in the evening he speaks for the opposition. So that gives him advantage. So those are two horse races. Then you have the second tier. The second tier of leaders are the likes of Musalia Mudavadi and Kalonzo Musyoka. These are leaders who can make a candidate miss the 50+1, okay? And this happened in 2007. If you ask me, the person who led to the post-election violence was the candidature of Kalonzo Musyoka. Why do I say so? If Kalonzo Musyoka, before the election, could have joined PNU, Kibaki could have won with a certain certainty, that his numbers could have given him a winner. If he could have stayed in ODM, because he was with us in ODM, that time it was called ODMK, if he could have stayed with us, then former Prime Minister Raila Odinga could have been the winner, okay, of that election, because the margin were like 200,000 votes, and Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka went with 800,000+ votes. So the candidature of Kalonzo Musyoka and Musalia Mudavadi, in my opinion, is they're just like they can deny one of the two horses the 50+1 constitutional threshold to become the winner. That is the second tier. So it is the horses and the donkeys. I think the rest I can't describe them. You know, the Gideon Moyes, the Jimmy Wanjigis, who else?
Wetangula?
I don't know. I don't think Wetangula is vying. I think Wetangula can only vie for a gubernatorial seat in Bungoma.
JB Muturi?
JB Muturi, my speaker, he has all the credentials, but now he's a victim of this, narrative that Mount Kenya cannot produce a president now. He is completely one of the casualties. So, but JB Muturi can make a very good running mate, if you ask me, if he plays his cards very well. And then he comes from Mount Kenya East, which has never produced a president. So there's a tie between Mount Kenya West and Mount Kenya East. So JB, if he plays his cards well, he has served as speaker for 10 years. He's going to finish his 10th year. He has a lot of experience. But I think the narrative, the perception that we have now, which has gone into everybody's mind, that this time round, which if you ask me is very, very valid, because you can't have a country where out of the 4 presidents, 3 are from one region. It's very, very sad. You can't have a country where the president, the Speaker of the National Assembly, who is number 3 in the constitutional hierarchy, the Chief Justice, the Director of Intelligence, the Chief of Defense Forces, the Attorney General, they come from one part of the country. I think that is not what the 2010 Constitution anticipated, So the people are talking about, we want to unify the country, we want to kill ethnicity. But if you look at the architecture of the 3 arms of government, who had the 3 arms of government? One community, one region. So I think there's a lot of what you call dishonesty and deceit among leaders in telling us how Kenya should be. I think the Kenya that is we anticipate in the Constitution 2010 should be a Kenya that is based on Article 10 of the Constitution on national values. Mm-hmm. So from where I sit, I think all these other people are just hanging around. They're wasting a lot of our time. Some of them cannot even win gubernatorial seat. Some of them cannot win a senatorial seat. Gideon Moi, I mean, in last election, it was difficult for him to win the Senate seat for Baringo. So he is just a spoiler. He has no constituency. His constituency is gone with William Ruto. So the contest is going to be, again, very tough, and it's going to be between William Ruto and Raila Odinga. President Uhuru Kenyatta, my honest opinion to him, you are not a candidate, and you cannot be a candidate, because the Constitution has barred you So I don't know why you are bothered. I mean, I don't know why President Uhuru Kenyatta is bothered. If you are not a candidate, I am one of his best friends. He has many friends. If you are not a candidate, then you leave us to choose who we want to support. Yeah. So the president cannot purport to retire at the same time manage the succession of the country. He cannot. Yeah, I think he should learn a lesson from President Kibaki. And for the first time, let me make it public. I remember during our time, 2013, when we had campaigning, I was part of his team. I remember one time we walked into President Kibaki. And President Kibaki, in the presence of the deputy president and the president, told us that, yeah, you have my support. I'll give you whatever support you need. But when the elections are over, he'll hand over power to whoever the people of Kenya will elect. That is what I expect of President Uhuru Kenyatta. He should not meddle in. He is not a candidate. We have a lot of regard for him, and he should not lose that respect. He should just allow Kenyans to choose who they want. He can support whoever he wants, but he cannot have his cake and eat it. He cannot decide. He cannot say, I'm going home, but I want to see how this country or this homestead will be managed after I leave. So the race is between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. The rest are just jokers.
The rest are jokers, or as you're saying, spoilers. I want to hold you personally to account to statements that you made back then, even in 2013, moving on towards 2017. And you said that if Kenya doesn't transform under the leadership of President Uhuru Kenyatta, it will never transform. Yes. Do you still stand by this? Do you feel Kenya has transformed?
Kenya has transformed. I mean, particularly the first 5 years, Kenya has transformed. I mean, President Uhuru Kenyatta has, and of course his government, which were part of it, has serious transformation footprints that generations to come will see. You know, I'll give you the millions of Kenyans, never before in all the successive governments, were connected to electricity. For the first time, a standard gauge railway, the viability might be of economic viability might be a question that can be discussed by generations to come. But for the first time, a modern railway network has been built. If you go around the country, huge investment have been put in road network. You know, even within Nairobi, you know, there are many bypasses that you can connect to. So, and that is found in many parts of the country. Huge investment has been made in the Technical Training Institute. I mean, for the first time, we have more skilled Kenyans in their thousands. The maternity facility, the free maternity for women, you know, was part of the maternal health program and part of the SDGs. If you look at energy, today Kenya, for the first time, we have produced more of our energy, whether it is geothermal, wind, sun. If you go to Garissa, there's solar. I mean, the solar energy, Garissa 51 megawatts project. So there are many things, you know, in terms of legislation. Many laws were passed during this time to make sure that the tax is reformed, ease of doing business. So there are many things today President Uhuru Kenyatta can be proud of. Even this express highway, however expensive it is, the way President Kibaki is remembered for the thickest superhighway, there are many things that can be remembered. But you know, every government has got the pros and the cons. There are many bad things that also this government will be remembered for. One of it is high taxation on the citizens, and that's why you see we have the fuel prices. And I mean, because this is the first time I'm talking to the media, I want to apologize to the people of Kenya. I mean, the VAT on fuel, to be part of the fuel cost, was introduced in the House when I was the leader of majority. And you remember it was very controversial. But at that time, we were trying to balance. Do we get more resources because of this debt? But I think that was the biggest mistake, because people are asking why fuel is cheaper in Uganda, why fuel is cheaper in Tanzania. Fuel is cheaper in Tanzania and Uganda because they have not taxed the fuel at the pump prices. 42 to 46% of the price you pay for a liter of petrol or kerosene or diesel at the Kenyan market is consumed by taxation. So basically Kenyans' fuel price is very high because of taxing. The other thing that that dilutes the transformation agenda that President Uhuru Kenyatta has done is the increment in the debt level. I mean, for the first time, I think close to 200%, the debt has increased, you know. The reason we are giving is that part of the huge investment we've made in energy and infrastructure, in the port, in the airports, is because we borrowed. But I think we had the choice to borrow from the multilateral and bilateral, you know, who give you cheaper loans, longer grace period with less interest. But what did we do as a government? We went to China. And we went to China because people wanted to get kickbacks. So President Uhuru Kenyatta still, I believe he has done good things, just like any other president, even Kibaki. But the last 5 years of President Uhuru Kenyatta, I can tell you he has missed his priorities. I mean, we had a blueprint of the Big Four agenda. And that could have really transformed the country. So in paper, we had a transformation agenda for the second half, based on what we did the first 5 years. It was to pick from where. Because now we have built the roads, we have built the capacity of energy. What are we supposed to do? Build more houses? Houses alone were to create 5 million jobs. Make sure this country is food sufficient. Leave the rain-fed agriculture, go to irrigated agriculture. Thirdly, increase our manufacturing sector by 15%. And fourthly was to create a universal health care for each and every Kenyan. I mean, there are many Kenyans who have no jobs. They've gone to school, they are poor. So if me and you who can pay for NHIF can cater. So all that now was consumed by the president taking the lead in shaping his succession politics of 2022.
At the expense of his
yes,
legacy?
I mean, trying to amend the constitution through the back door, create positions in order to create a coalition that can face his deputy. So he left the highway and he went to the back street in terms of his second term, and I think it was very, very unfortunate. And that again, you know, that politics became very toxic. A number of us became casualties, you know. And on the contrary, during the day, he tells the people, I want to unite the country. But at night, his own party is not united, his own house is not united, his government is not united, his presidency, him and the deputy are not united. So we went back to the politics of deceit and betrayal and, undermining that happened to Jaramogi, that happened to Moi in the 77-78 succession wars, that went back to the dispute during the Grand Coalition government between. So this country is very unfortunate. This country must always go into, we must get leaders who rise above ethnic and leadership wrangles. We must get leaders who respect the rule of law. Is in his second 5-year term, I think one of the things that is negative will be remembered for President Uhuru Kenyatta was, to mutilate the constitution, to disrespect the rule of law, to allow his ministers to refuse to be served by court orders. So what happened? The president did a purge in parliament, unfortunately, and that led to the state capture of the legislature. Today, for the first time, you have no opposition. You don't know who is government, who is opposition. The opposition in the architecture of our constitution and standing order are supposed to only run and chair the key oversight committees of public accounts, public investment, special funds account, implementation committee. But now you have got opposition members of parliament running committees. You don't know, you'll see the leader of majority and the leader of minority speaking the same language. But this country needs an opposition. And not only this country, every country in the world, even in the US, in UK, opposition is a constitutional principle. So if you ask me, the president and his handlers and the former prime minister, they have caused confusion. And the moment they were through with the state capture of the legislature, they thought they can capture the judiciary. And that's why the introduction of an ombudsman was introduced. But I'm happy the men and women who run our constitution, our judiciary, have stood the test of time, and they will be remembered in history for defending the independence and the integrity of the judiciary. So if you ask me, President Uhuru Kenyatta did very transformation agenda. That's what I said when I made that statement. It was his first term. If you ask me the second term, I think he poured the water on the good things that he did in the first term. Yeah.
All right. I want us to go back to the role of the opposition in the country, which actually was my next question, but you have sort of answered it. How important it is to have an opposition in the country. Of course, from where President Uhuru Kenyatta sits from, the handshake with former Prime Minister Raila Odinga was in the interest of uniting the country. But then, as you're saying, we're not then seeing an active opposition. To some, they might just make it look like, quote unquote, an opposition is there to bash the government of the day. But what really is the weight and the importance of the opposition in as far as keeping the government in check and its oversight rules?
No. I think in every jurisdiction of a similar nature of our country, like in the US, opposition is very critical. Opposition is supposed to oversight the revenue and expenditure, for example, of government. Okay? They must check on the debt level. Because, in our constitutional architecture, for example, Parliament has a very big role. Parliament has the role of budget making. Parliament has a role of approval of key government programs. So if Parliament, the opposition, stay firm, and it is in their interest, by the way, when they critique and they pinpoint the shortcomings of the executive, those who are in government, the party in government, one, they will scare away government, that government is violating the law, and so government will be on the check. They will not abuse power. They will not abuse office. They will not violate the constitution, because there is a watchdog. There's somebody watching over them. Okay? And the opposition will use that to endure themselves and prepare themselves for the next election. So up to today, if you ask me, the so-called handshake, I don't know who has earned dividend. If you ask me, Raila Odinga has not earned any dividend from the opposition. It has killed his credentials. It has killed his coalition, NASA. The president is about 8 months to go. He has nothing tangible for the opposition. that can make them president next election. But I think going forward, the opposition, that's why we have the minority and the majority. In fact, even in our parliamentary setup, even the members of parliament from the ruling coalition ideally are supposed to oversight government, because they are not there to represent government. But the minority have a more strong moral obligation and moral high ground to check on balance. And you see the first 5 years of Jubilee administration. I mean, Prime Minister Raila Odinga is the one who raised the red flag on the corruption in the health ministry. He's the one who raised the red flag on NYS and Waiguru and all these characters who are now hanging around him. He's the one who raised the red flag on the Eurobond, you know. He's the one who used to raise a lot on the extrajudicial killings taking place in our country. He used to raise a number of issues on electoral issues, you know, the formation of an independent commissions. But what happened these days? These days, government, you can't tell who is government and who is the minority. So a country cannot, a democratic country like Kenya, cannot exist, and the Constitution did not foresee, did not anticipate, the framers of our Constitution did not anticipate there will be a time in the history of our country, there will be something so-called handshake, and there will be no minority. That I want to go on record. Yes, there's a serious problem. The Constitution has created safeguards and roles for individuals who hold public and state offices and institutions that are created by the Constitution. You know, that is why you know, certain offices have been insulated from the executive interference, and they only report to Parliament. The office of the DPP, the Inspector General of Police, the EACC, the Control of Budget, the Auditor General. But today, even those institutions, to a greater extent, are influenced and are muzzled by state actors until you can foresee, and very remotely you can see they're losing that independence created for them by the Constitution. For example, the Inspector General of Police cannot and purport to take instructions from the CS Interior. So there's this handshake thing. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 has no place for handshake. The electoral infrastructure has no place for handshake. The elections of this country, there must be a winner or a loser, from MCA up to the president. Now, if the two runners-up, the runners-up and the winner have shook hands, then that means even that should be translated to governors. The governors who lost, who are second, they should shake hands with the governors who are there now. They should share power, you know. The same with members of parliament. So this handshake, this animal called handshake, is the biggest threat to the existence of democracy in our country, is the biggest threat to stability of our country. And what President Kenyatta and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga are telling us is hogwash. I mean, if I can describe them, is that what they have done is raping the Constitution. They have raped the Constitution. They have set a very bad precedent. And I'm sure many people, including myself, who are now writing their memos, I'm writing my memo, we will document for generations to come that it was a coup against the Constitution. I mean, the unity of the people of Kenya does not start and end with the handshake between President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. I mean, they are not supernatural human beings, you know. You know, today there are many communities in Kenya who are fighting. What's happening in Laikipia? The president and the deputy president who are constitutionally elected together. You know, there are people who are confusing, and I have seen Kalonzo Musyoka, I mean, a lawyer, a senior counsel, talking about that, oh, I never used to behave this way when I was the vice president. Give us a break. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 created the office of the deputy president fundamentally different from the vice president. The vice president used to be appointed by the president through a letter and his signature. The current deputy president and even the future deputy president are together as pair with the presidential candidate in the ballot. So maybe Maribe might have voted for President Uhuru Kenyatta, and Honorable Duale might have voted for William Ruto. So, and when IEBC in Bomas was giving the certificate, the returning officer was giving, Chepukati was giving, and Hassan, 2013, were giving the winning certificate to Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, they gave to both of them. President Uhuru Kenyatta received his certificate, William Ruto received his certificate. So even those who are saying William Ruto should resign, William Ruto, it is not him to decide. It is the millions who elected him out there in Kenya, and the millions who elected President Uhuru Kenyatta to decide. They are tied. So I have to tell Kalonzo Musyoka, you are a senior counsel, read the Constitution. The vice president of the yesteryears is different. And I think I really want to ask those who will come after President Uhuru Kenyatta. It's very, very sad because I was a young kid, and when I read history how people who were around the late Mzee Kenyatta humiliated the person of Mzee Jaramogi, humiliated the person of Mzee Moi, the late Mzee Moi, and then many people around President Moi humiliated the former vice president, you know, the way President Kibaki as a vice president humiliated the late Professor George Saitoti, Professor Dr. Karanja, and many others. I think as a country going forward, we must leave the culture of powerful men and women, you know, humiliating and undermining their deputies. And this goes on to deputy governors, you know. But I don't bother about deputy governors. If the president of the Republic of Kenya can humiliate, can allow juniors to humiliate the person and the character and the office of the deputy president, when I go to my county and I go to other counties and I see deputy governors being humiliated, the bar has been set. Yeah, they are learning from what is going on.
It's coming from the top.
So the opposition, in my opinion, this animal called handshake has really changed our history and how we do. And I think Kenya is bigger than President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. There are 45 million Kenyans. And I think in the next general election, Kenyans must do something to end the history, the political history of the Kenyatta and the Odinga families.
But
I think since independence, if you read the geopolitics of Kenya, I think if it is stability, if it is ethnic mobilization, ethnic politics, I think these two families have played a very big role. So if you ask me, the earlier the better they exit the political scene. I mean, President Kenyatta, I'm sure he's exiting. So I think Prime Minister Raila Odinga, if he loses in the election of 2022, he should, the Kenyatta and the Odinga family should exit politics. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. Going back to president and deputy president, governors and their deputies, to the extent that now even the church wants to mediate, from a good working relationship in the past 5 years to what we're seeing now. The president is saying, you know, that his deputy is very busy campaigning at a very early stage instead of, you know, working or fulfilling his mandate. The deputy president is saying, look, I have been working, but I feel that I'm being undermined. You have had a very close working relationship with both of them.
Yes.
Who really is undermining who?
No, if you ask me, the president and the deputy have been very, very close political and personal friends since, I think, 2002 and beyond. In 2007, there were two different political formations. I was with the deputy president in ODM, and the president was in with Kanu and had a coalition with PNU Kibaki, and that led to the Grand Coalition government. And midway, some of us left ODM and formed URP. He left Kanu and formed TNA. Then we had the huge history of the ICC. And in the post-election violence, they were on two different sides of the contest. One was supporting Raila Odinga, the other one was supporting Uhuru Kenyatta. And some of us joined them because in 2013, they convinced us that we must unite the country. And the unity of the country, they said, must begin with the two communities that fought in the 2008 post-election violence, that is the Kikuyu and the Kalenjin. And they succeeded very well. I was part of that journey, you know. I remember it was very, very difficult to convince the Kalenjins to support a Kikuyu after Kibaki. Because the first term of Kibaki and second term, there was serious purge on the rank and file of the Kalenjin community in public and state offices. I'm sure on the other side, because I was with him, it was difficult for the president to convince his backyard to support, to have a coalition with the people from the Rift. But you know, God was very kind to them. He made that unity very easy for them. And the two communities came together. And again, God was very kind to these two leaders. He removed them from the ICC. I mean, the ICC was, if you ask me, was a scheme orchestrated by the West and their local partners to clear the way for a Raila presidency in 2013. You could tell the way the foreign missions were behaving. You know, they wanted to interfere with the elections, the dramatic elections of Kenya. So the first 5 years, you remember, they were together. I mean, we were together with them. They were wearing the same shirt, same ties, you know. So between the two of them, there is one who's playing the politics of deceit, politics of betrayal. And if you ask me, I have known President Uhuru Kenyatta for many years. I am very shocked. I never expected him to play that kind of card. And more so, I think where I can indict the president is to allow close friends, people around him, to have the guts, you know, to have the courage to undermine and to insult and to humiliate the deputy president. I mean, they are known. Those people cannot do that unless they have the confidence and the backing of the boss. So that is where I feel the problem in the conflict between the president and the deputy president. The problem is with the president. The president, you know, in the worst case scenario, even if he's not supporting the deputy president, the president should not allow bureaucrats, technocrats, you know, working in his office, people who have no, who are nothing in the journey to the formation URP, TNA, the formation of Jubilee, whether they're part of his family, whether they're part of the people who work around him, the president, I think, even for his future, should not allow those people and give them the courage and the confidence to humiliate his deputy. I mean, today you have seen, I mean, you look at the history of the US, we have a presidential system. No US president has undermined his deputy. Coming to the story that the deputy president is campaigning for 2022. I mean, our first term, from the day one when we were sworn in, the president told us, including the deputy president, let us not sleep. Go to every village so that we win our second term. So when it was a time for him to win his second term, he allowed the deputy president to crisscross the country. So when it is now the time for the deputy president to build his networks and prepare himself and even use the infrastructure available to him by government and his party, the president says, no, you cannot campaign. You cannot do what you are doing in the first term of our elections. That is dishonest. That is deceit. That is betrayal. That is not how gentlemen work in politics. And you know the handshake? I was one person who believed in the handshake. One person who believed first in the coming together of Raila Odinga and the president, because you know the country was divided down the middle, which is morally right in every democracy. You can even lose an election. I mean, we won a 2013 election by a margin of to the 50+1 by only 8,000 votes, but the Supreme Court gave us a stamp. In that election, it was a court, yeah, but the second election, the opposition refused to participate. So President Uhuru Kenyatta will go into history, just like his dad. Unfortunately, I am not very far from his age group, who allowed, just like his dad, just like Moi, who allowed proxies and people around them and gave them the courage and the confidence to humiliate their deputies. I think going forward, whoever becomes the president in 2022, should not allow that. Even in my family here, the way I treat people, you know, the confidence I can give to my children is how they will treat their mother, you know. So this one, I think President Uhuru Kenyatta cannot run away from. And I think he has 8 months to leave office. If my advice to him is just call your deputy and say that this has happened, I am very sorry, and call to order the men and women who are doing this, and say, I'm not supporting you, but this is your space, do it. And to these public servants, and to these technocrats, I want to tell them to read from history. I want them to go back to the days of Mbiu Koinange and Kika Kimani. I want them to go back to the days of Nicholas Biwott, you know, and ZK Cheriot, and powerful men, and Hezekiah Oyugi. I want them to go back to the days of Chris Murungaru and Kraitu Murungi and Dev Mwangi, you know, and later part of Amos Kimunya, Mother Karua, who were powerful in the Kibaki administration, both the second and the first term. So, and tell them that presidents will retire and you'll be left hanging. So they must, every public servant regardless of your position, now you have, it has an eternity clause. It will come to an end. Please work like a gentleman called Ambassador Francis Mudaura. That is one man, I think, Mudaura, one man who hold the Grand Coalition together, who today can be a symbol of a good public servant. Yeah.
All right. I want to take you back to the handshake a bit, Mheshimiwa. From the handshake, we saw, of course, the birth of the BBI. The ODM leader, Raila Odinga, has recently made statements intimating that we might be seeing the return of reggae. What's your take on that?
I think, because of the age.
It's
and
an age thing.
Raila Odinga, I think, I don't know. I saw him last night saying it. But number one, BBI was built on the sand soil. It collapsed. But, the framers of our Constitution, 2010 Constitution, both in letter and spirit, have put safeguards that will protect the interests of the millions of Kenyans who voted for that constitution, who said we want a pure presidential system where the judiciary will be independent, where the executive will not have a footprint and a space in the legislature. And that's why they said ministers cannot be in the house. And many Kenyans don't know why that was done. I served in the Grand Coalition government where ministers were 44 and the assistant ministers were 46. So half of the house, that time the house was 210. So close to 100 members or 90 members were from the executive. And I remember Ambassador Mudaura used to whip us by letter that assistant minister so-and-so, minister so-and-so, you must be in the house. So government could pass anything they want. And where they could not pass anything, the president could use the veto power. So the 2010 Constitution says, no, the three arms of government must be independent, distinct, and must work together. So the first thing the president did in terms of... so BBI was, again, and then the Constitution created in its own how it should be amended. It says you can amend the Constitution through a parliamentary safeguards and you can go only this far. If you cross that line, you will now need the approval and the concurrence of the people of Kenya. And that's why it says after parliamentary initiative, you cross the line. Now here you have to go to the people referendum. So those were the only two routes. And then in referendum, the Constitution gave specific principles and roadmap. It says you must start with civic education, go that every village in Kenya, they know what you are doing, what you want to amend. 2, you will do public participation. 3, you come back to what we did in 2005, the constituent assemblies in Bomas, and finally you go to referendum. So what happened? President Uhuru Kenyatta and President Raila Odinga decided, no, we should not go through this. I mean, let's amend the Constitution. 2 people. So they, because of the impunity and, chest thumping and use of money, they went and collected names from, M-Pesa shops. MCAs were bribed. Parliament was bribed. All the stages were not fulfilled. The president wanted to have his own prefect in the judiciary because he has captured parliament. Now he wanted to amend and bring members of parliament to be ministers. But above all, the president knew the only way to beat William Ruto was to create a coalition and create positions. That was the whole thing. This handshake, blah, blah, all this is rubbish. So he wanted to create a prime minister, give to Kalonzo, deputy prime minister, give to Musalia, give to Waiguru, to this, and then, so he was creating positions through BBI for few political elite against the people of Kenya. But I think for the first time, and I think the history, the Duale has come to realize that the 5 and the 7 at the toll of men and women of the High Court and the Court of Appeal have come out, God sent, stood their firm, and now they have created something called the Basic Structure Doctrine. Nobody can amend this constitution now, particularly, and change fundamentally without going back to the people. And that is why even these ones, people who are now talking of the Kionis and these ones who are talking about bringing positions, I can tell you without any fear of contradiction, they are driving on thicker superhighway and they have no brakes. Nobody can change the constitution. So the handshake, Kenyans were duped. Handshake was to create a Raila Odinga presidency through the back door by amending the constitution. Yes, and Raila Odinga can only become president through 2 ways: through popular vote and by the will of the Almighty God. Yes.
All right.
Not Uhuru Kenyatta or not people, technocrats sitting somewhere. It is the people who decide.
It's the people.
We are not in these countries where elections don't take place, or if they take place just for formality. Kenyans elect their president every 5 years. Yeah.
We the people, in the spirit of chapter 1 of the Constitution.
Yes.
It's the season of coalitions as we wind up, Mhesh. It's the season of coalitions and, of course, clamor for various regions. But then if really Kenyans were to look at issues, whichever candidate is coming, to present their manifesto and their vision for the country, very quickly, if we could run through them with you. If you start, say, with Deputy President William Ruto on issues, what would Kenyans be looking at?
Every candidate must have the economy as number 1, number 2, and number 3 issue. Today, our economy is in ICU, the debt level, inflation. And that's why Kenya Bureau of Statistics is delaying releasing reports. They released the other day after I sought a statement from on the floor of the House, because they want to appease and cook the numbers with IMF and the World Bank. So the economy is very, very critical. Somebody needs, of course, again, the COVID has ravaged. The economy is very critical. Going forward, that candidate must tell us post-COVID economic recovery plan. What is his plan? 2, and that's why William Ruto has picked it. We must now reconfigure our economic model. It should be more of people-driven. The common man in the streets who have no job, who have a small business, who needs proper health care. So we must start from the bottom up. People are more mesmerized about this wheelbarrow. Wheelbarrow is just a tool that symbolizes the many other tools and equipment that are used by people at the bottom of the economy for their daily livelihood and survival. So economy is number 1. The war on COVID, how to vaccinate the millions of Kenyans. We should not waste about giving numbers. We should tell us how many Kenyans have been vaccinated, so how to deal with the COVID. That should be priority. And 3, I think, for where I come from, I think for William Ruto, because now we are part of the first time of President Uhuru Kenyatta. We had a very good, roadmap. I think the deputy president must not just throw the baby with the bath water. He must re-engineer and reintroduce back the 4 big agenda, programs: housing, manufacturing, universal health care, and the food security. And if all these are fixed, then jobs will be created. There will be many people who will join the tax bracket, and more revenue will be dealt. Thirdly, I think within the economy, they must have a solution how to fix the debt crisis. I don't think whether it is William Ruto or Raila Odinga who becomes the president, he will not sit pretty. It will not be a very pretty presidency. And I sometimes ask themselves why they are so much concerned about becoming a president. This president is leaving you with a huge debt crisis. I mean, today, they're not telling the people of Kenya, we are at 12 trillion debt. Every 100 shilling we collect, or collected by Kenya Revenue Authority, close to about 58 to 60 is going to service debts. Yes. So we are mortgaged by China and many other countries. So I think, and of course, those are key. Then security, stability, this education model, which I am seeing is facing serious challenge. You know, it's not as the way Magoha is saying. There are many issues, but I think the economy is number one. Somebody must sit and must have a practical solution to how to fix the economy and reconfigure the economic model in our country.
On those issues, it's either issues that they will present to the electorate, but what do you make of those that are of the school of thought that they will wait for the outgoing president to come and say, this is the direction we're taking and that is what we're going to follow?
No, but President Uhuru Kenyatta is a classical example of a presidential project that has failed. So why should he think that he's a living example in history? Moi brought him from nowhere, and he thought he can push us through the throats of Kenyans, and he failed in 2002. That time he was coming from a popular region called Central, and they voted for Kibaki. I don't think those who are hanging around President Uhuru Kenyatta, they're hanging because of one, he might give them resources. They're broke. You know, the likes of Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi. You know, for you to run a serious presidential campaign, you must have the networks and the resource mobilization. So they think President Uhuru Kenyatta will give them the resources. Two, they think the people of Mount Kenya can be transferred. You know, the transfer window. But even in the transfer window in football, people are bought. So they think he can transfer voters who refused to vote for him in 2002. In 2021, they can vote for the person of their choice. I mean, the people of Mount Kenya is one of the most highly educated, exposed voting bloc in our region. I don't think whether President Uhuru Kenyatta will have that major sway. What is it that... I mean, they need to decide who is the best candidate to take care of their interests. Thirdly, and I think why people are hanging around President Uhuru Kenyatta, there are people, you know, who think the state infrastructure can help you win elections. I was we had the state support in 2013. It was the most difficult election. We won by 8,000 plus to the mark, only 8,000. How come the state did not win Kiambaa? It's in the president's backyard, Juja. And that was only one by-election in one day. So that those who believe, oh, if you have the state, and I want to tell them for free, I mean, I have won elections 3 times in 3 different political parties and in different scenarios. Sometime in 2007, I was in the opposition, Raila Odinga's party. Kibaki used all, you covered when Garissa people chased Mother Karua and George Saitoti over the banana oranges. I was in orange. So if the people decide on a candidate, they will elect. And I came through 3 different parties. So it is the people to decide. So those who are hanging around President Uhuru Kenyatta, you know what will happen to them? President Uhuru Kenyatta, in the next 5 months, he will put off his phone. I'm telling you. Yeah. He'll try to talk to the state, try to see how his pension plan is. He'll ask them, can you look for me an office? Because the Constitution gives him a very robust office. He'll ask them, how many cars am I entitled to? How much is my pension in terms of cash at the end of the month? How many security am I entitled to? Where do I build my retirement house? Okay. He's very young, unlike Kibaki and President Moi. He will try to see whether he can be an envoy, a special envoy in Africa. He has the capacity, the education. I know him very well. Whether he can become a UN special envoy, I will advise him to join and be part of the serious think tanks in Washington and New York, you know, the Atlantic, the crisis group. You know, he goes and gives them a speech. So these people hanging around President Kibaki, you better go and look for
President
votes.
Kenyatta.
Get votes. Yes. You cannot be managed by a president who is leaving. And that was 8 months. By December, the president will say, let me plan. He will get a paper and a pen, and he will call his clothes, and he will try to configure his stuff. You will go with me to the rotation plan, like this guy who's called the media guy for Moi. What is he called? The late President Moi. Njiru.
Lee.
Lee Njiru. So you'll ask who will go with me, who will go, how many securities do I have? They will be shocked. Yeah. You don't invest in a retiring president. It's like the sunset. What happens? The sunset, after sunset, is the darkness. You only ask where the switch is. So you invest in the sunrise. In the sunrise is where you open your shop, you send your cows to the field, you milk your camels, you travel from Garissa to Nairobi, you visit your friends in the sunset. I mean, the sunrise. In the sunset, so a president living is a sunset. And I think the President Uhuru Kenyatta, my advice is, let Kenyans elect, let the people of Central Kenya elect. And those who are telling us, like Moses Kuria, that we must be given the deputy president, we must be given these ministers, 3 to 5 positions that will not transform the lives of the millions of people in Mount Kenya. Every region must negotiate serious economic gains that will change and empower the people of that region based on their economic setup. And I agree with the government that is coming, but not on positions. I can tell you, I've learned from experience that positions, Central Kenya had the president since independence, apart from the 24 years of Moi. Am I right? So if you did not get anything when you had president, you want to tell me that when you get ministers, you will transform Mount Kenya? That is deceit and fallacy. And the people of Mount Kenya should not listen to those. Those are selfish leaders. In fact, they should come and tell us, we want to become the running mate. Moses Kuria and his cabal must say, and Kinjuri must say, no, we have a problem with William Ruto. He doesn't want to pick us as a running mate. Don't go around and beat about the bush. Yes. And the people of Mount Kenya, their candidate is not a deputy president. Their candidate is William Ruto. That's the mistake they're making. William Ruto, in fact, if he says my dealings with the people of Mount Kenya will be through a deputy president, he's insulting them, and they should not elect him. The people of Mount Kenya, 99% believe that William Ruto is one of their own. He is their candidate come 2022. So these ones who are saying we want a running mate, then you people, you are not representing. The people of Mount Kenya, they have the presidency. They have the presidency. According to them, in fact, they even own William Ruto more than the people of Rift Valley, more than even other Kenyans. So when this was saying deputy president, that is an insult. And I'm telling you, even me, I have told the deputy president, my friend, you are the candidate of Mount Kenya. So do not insult them by daggling, I'll give you these ministers, I'll give you the running mate. No. In fact, they are ready to have a running mate from another region, because then they have already owned the candidate himself. Yeah.
All right.
That is from where I see myself.
Very interesting insights. Mheshimiwa has always so much to talk about, little time. I think we will need another sitting.
Yes.
Yeah? To continue this conversation. There is a lot to speak about as we head on to 2022, and even as we try to look at whether Kenyans will vote on issues or they will vote on
I always tell you, I say the way it is.
Yeah. Very candid, very open. And thank you so much for even creating the time to be on the Jacque Maribe show.
Yeah, I don't have a committee meeting, so yes.
We could have spent the entire
No, I have from 11 o'clock.
Okay, sawa. But as always, thank you. It has been a pleasure speaking to you, especially on issues that, matter to the country. We'll continue this conversation. And thank you as well so much for watching. See you next week. God bless.
This is the Jacque Maribe Show.